Our doctors provide Santa Clarita's finest primary and specialist care at 4 convenient Santa Clarita locations. If you're looking for connected, convenient, personal care, there's no better place. We accept most health insurance, including plans offered through Covered California. Call 1-844-MY-FACY for more information or to schedule an appointment.
Hey there, I'm Tori with your hometown station weather. Mostly sunny this week with highs in the low to mid 90s, overnight lows in the upper 60s. Save the date for the SCV Chamber Latino Business Alliance Gala, Saturday, September 8th at 6 p.m. at the Newhall Family Theater for the Performing Arts. For more information, go to scvchamber.com. And for all things Santa Clarita Valley related, go to hometownstation.com.
Financial security will help you live the life you dream. Learn about financial power, the Total Financial Hour. Now higher income strategy.
Welcome to the show.
Learn from
Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halaby. Thanks for being with us. Talk about your family's finances. Of course, getting out of debt, managing money, planning for the future. What is that all about when you're trying to figure out, I don't know, whether or not you should retire now, retire later? Here, let me give you some of the biggest risks that I've seen when people are planning on retiring when their accounts are at all-time high. Right, so here's what we see. People say, I'm ready to retire. Oh, my gosh, I hit that magic $1 million. Okay, or $10 million, or whatever the number is. If that's what you're looking at and you're saying, okay, that's what I need to happen, and there's a reason that you said that magic number, whatever it is, this account is $1 million, for example, then you need to think about this and say, how do I protect that $1 million? Because if it's $1 million and it's gone up really well and it's done amazing things in the last 2 years, then what do you think could happen in the next 2 years? Could it go back down? Which means, are you going to go back to work? Probably not. So what I'm saying is, I think if you're going to have that magic number, whatever it is, I think you have to look at it in the form of income and strategic income so that you have a guaranteed source of income coming in, whether that's through your pension, Social Security, whatever it might be. But also think about it as, if that's a number that matters to me, how do I protect that number? How do I say, okay, the average time the stock market has gone down and before it recovers, let's say, is 8 years, 7-8 years, right? It goes down pretty quickly, and it takes years for it to come back. By the time you take from one peak to the next, that's 7 or 8 year period of time. Then you do the math. How much in income do you think you're going to need for that period of time from that account? All right, so let's say it's $30,000 a year. Okay, so 30,000 times 8 years, it's 240,000. So that's the number that you put safe. That's the number you might say, that's what I'm going to protect. So I'm still going to live on the other monies, but if a year from now or 2 years from now, oh my gosh, the market starts to go down, you stop withdrawing from your risky accounts because you got to sell things when they're cheaper. And who wants to do that? You want to buy when things are inexpensive, not sell. But when you're living on food, shelter, clothing, those things are counting on the market, the dollars that are in the market, then you have to protect the other side of it. Okay, so that's important. Don't just say, hey, my account's at all-time highs. I can't wait. Now I'm done. I'm retired. And then the market goes down. Ask folks that have figured that out. And then they had to go back to work, right? We've seen that time and again. All right, so one of the things I want to touch on that I've noticed, again, this morning, same thing as normal. It's almost become a comedy show, right? This morning, 2 out of 3 clients, guess where they're retiring? Outside of California. 2 out of 3. One is a general manager of a large store, grocery chain, right? A high level manager. Another one is a lady who's a retiree, now a widow, who says, it looks like I'm going to have to retire outside of California because I have just enough funds where I could live comfortably, but I have to sell my home here. I could buy home cash in the 3 other states, and I never have to go and work ever again. but I now have to leave California, right? So when you're thinking about this as a solution or as an option, you have to look and say, what are my choices? Because if you're choosing to retire outside of California, what are some of the things you need to know? Number one, if you are driving a car on the streets of California, there are rules. It has to be registered. And the registration of those particular cars, if you have a business here, you have to register it right away. The rules in California don't allow you to drive go over to Las Vegas or Phoenix, register it to a P.O. box, and then come over here and drive it. So you need to be careful. Take a look around. If you don't think people are leaving California when they retire, take a look around and see how many out-of-state license plates you see. Right? You can't be a resident here and a resident there at the same time. You have to choose one. And when you look at your taxes and you say, you know what, it's probably good to choose someplace else, ask yourself, if that's going to happen, what are most people going to look at when they leave? Sure, standard of living is very important, but don't ever think about it in such a way as you say, well, I'm going to stay in California but pretend like I'm out of state. There are some laws, there's some rules. So make sure you double check, because I don't want you to get yourself into trouble. All right? That's a big deal. Secondarily, if you're looking at this on a regular basis, right, you're looking at this as an opportunity to say, what am I going to do? How do I plan and prepare for my retirement when I have children that just won't seem to leave the house? Right? Have you heard of that? If you've listened to my show before, you've heard me talk about there are people that literally have had to move, like sell their house. And we had one particular client, and the son just wouldn't move. I mean, the mom had heart-to-heart conversation. They raised their voice. I'm sure they yelled, right? They had nice and bad and screaming and yelling and hugs, and the son just wouldn't move. Wouldn't move. So one day he comes home from 2 nights at his girlfriend's house, and she had a for sale sign. And he said, Mom, what is this? You know you're not serious. A couple months later, there's a moving truck. And she had already had another place. It's in a senior facility, like a 55 or older community. 1 bedroom. And the moving truck is moving her stuff from the house to the 1 bedroom condo. It's great for her. Expenses go down. Certainly electricity and utilities are very little compared to a home that's much larger, 4 bedrooms. And the last thing that, now she's met with him since, but the last thing she had seen was him standing on the sidewalk with his stuff and a couple of trash bags and some other things on the sidewalk. And she said, I told you for years. So this is important. That's a fairly drastic thing. I don't want you to think about this as an option, but it can happen, right? If knowledge is power, why are all these young people still making very poor financial decisions? Why are they not succeeding in business or in careers? Because you see, I don't think it's about knowledge being power. I think it's the proper use of the proper knowledge. I think we have knowledge outpacing wisdom at such a high rate that you have know-it-all, arrogant son of a guns who have no clue how life works. In fact, the narcissism, and for those of you that don't understand that word, it just means you're self-centered. It's all about you. We used to call it selfish. But the narcissistic component of a young person who has all of this knowledge, all of this degrees, access to free information, when before it used to at least be inconvenient to get, at the very least, and at the very most, very expensive to obtain. Where today, it's neither inconvenient, nor is it expensive, nor is there really any value placed on it. You see, when knowledge used to be valuable, you were thorough, you were thoughtful, you were at least a lot more careful. with what you said you knew or didn't know. But today, this whole thing of wisdom is thrown out the back door. That's your grandfather's problem, not mine. Oh, wisdom, I don't need that. Oh, I am wise because you pick the number. It doesn't matter what age. You don't understand how difficult it's been. You know, when I had to share a dorm room with 3 other people. Really? That's your knowledge? That's your wisdom? Comes from somebody else paying for it. Listen, now is the time your kids are going off to college. I cannot tell you how many times I hear, you don't understand how beautiful of a college campus it is. You know, they have it looks like a country club, like lounge area with leather couches and fireplaces for the kids to study. You know, they have a gym. They have a great gym. Looks like, pick your high-end gym. I'm not going to advertise for them, but, right? It's a high-end gym. And they have a spa, spa treatments, and they can just bill it directly to their student accounts. In case they get stressed out and they need a cry room or they need some sort of a massage or something during finals. Whew. Instead of colleges being, oh, by the way, here's where wisdom comes from and you better cherish it, right? To get into some of these prestigious schools used to be a big deal. Today you can go online and get a degree from most of these schools, not quite for free as far as inconvenience go. You're still paying the price. But there's certainly much greater acceptance because they don't have to worry about parking. They don't have to worry about how many class to student to teacher ratio. So as that change is happening, and the kids boomerang and come back home because they're not walking into a job at $120,000 a year, their boss doesn't think they're that special because, by the way, you have to show up on time just like everybody else. So I think you need to condition your young folks. Because there's going to be a day, just like you and I hit it, right? When you went, whoa, I understand how difficult it is being a parent. Maybe it's not right away when you become a parent. Maybe it's a little bit later. Maybe it's when, you suddenly have to pay your own bills and you don't have enough money. Or the difference between today and payday is a painful period of time where you're eating noodles or you're buying dollar tacos at your local favorite restaurant. Some of you had heard that used to be my date. My date with my now wife back in the day when times were tough would be we would go, we'd get, $4 or $5, $8 worth of tacos and burritos, whatever it is that you could get, the 2-for-1, all that stuff. Remember those days? We'd go to the top of a parking structure and we'd sit on the tailgate of my car and we'd watch the stars and we would eat these dollar tacos. Be quiet, nobody's there. Security would come up, they'd look at us, okay, you're not doing anything. Leave us alone. And they'd drive away. Now, sometimes I long for that simplicity, don't you? You long for that time when you don't have to spend $150 at a steakhouse to enjoy dinner. We weren't drinking at the time. We weren't old enough to drink, and we didn't drink anyway. So we didn't have to have a bottle of wine or something. We just had a bottle of water, maybe soda, whatever it was. But imagine how simple it would be. Because both of us knew that we were on a fixed budget. She lived with her roommates. I still lived at home. Right? We were taking care of other people. So I think young people need to have a place where their self-worth is challenged. Because most of them have no self-worth. They have a lot of self-esteem. Right? I love it. Oh, we need more self-esteem. Then we'd have less people in prison. No. Do you not understand? The self-esteem in prison is off the charts. The self-worth in prison is through the bottom. Because ask these people. When they're in jail, they'll say just interview a criminal. Watch some of these shows. You can go on YouTube. I'm sure it's around somewhere. But when I would talk to these criminals when I was a police officer, they would say, that lady had my purse. I said, but it's her purse. No. I wanted it. It's mine. Well, but when you broke into the house, why did you think? Because I broke into the house because I was looking for stuff for me because they had my VCR, jewelry, whatever it was back in the day, fill in the blank. They had a lot of self-esteem, no self-worth. Don't confuse the two. And that changed a lot of the mindset. Because why do you think homelessness and criminality is off the charts now? Drug abuse on the streets. Because these young people were kicked out of their mom's home? Because they picked up and moved? Or maybe because the failure to launch, as some of these, eloquent articles and books and other things say, the failure to launch for these young people has resulted, I think, in a lot of folks trying to understand what's next for them. Why are they supposed to be important? And if they don't find the importance inside, if you don't teach them the basics of finances, maybe you don't know them, then you know what? You guys go together. You learn together. Total Financial Solutions. My name is Arif Halaby, folks. We're going to have a class coming up on the Total Financial Hour. In fact, we're going to be running a series of classes gearing up for the Total Money School, which is an actual kind of a class, total money classes, financial literacy courses. And it's a Saturday, it's one day, and it's called Money Basics. It's a chance for you to learn. It's a chance for you to grow. And if you don't know everything in the financial world that you think you should or don't feel comfortable, then you come and bring your teen, your 25-year-old. It doesn't matter. So that they have a chance to learn. They have a chance to learn money basics. Because for a lot of us, we weren't taught this stuff at home. Should you buy or lease a car? Well, it depends. Oh, I know. Should I roll over my 401k or keep it? It depends. So Total Money School will help you kind of weed through some of those questions and really kind of empower you to start asking the right questions for yourself. Because it's going to be different than your neighbor, your sister, your brother. So the difference between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA, which one should you open up? Anybody who ever says you should always do this or never do that is usually wrong. Why? Because there's almost never do you notice how I keep qualifying? There's almost never a time to use a definitive of never or always. There just isn't. Listen, I saw something interesting today, in fact, this morning. There's a TED Talk of why some kids, young people, aren't successful. And it was done by a psychologist. And it was specific of kids that would be successful. Why aren't they successful? Very simple. They don't have grit. Angela Lee Duckworth. I think she's a PhD, but if not, she's a psychologist or psychiatrist of some sort. Angela Lee Duckworth. Grit, the power of passion. I encourage you to check that out. Passion and perseverance. Why is it that young people don't seem to succeed even though they have all of the IQ, intelligence in the world? And why do others? We used to call it stick-to-itiveness. We used to call it the ability to overcome. Right? The Marine Corps calls it confront and overcome. Right? Overcome and achieve. It's the same thing. How is it that you can tell? Because they would look at spelling bee winners. They would look at startup companies. They would look at people beginning their MBA or PhD programs. And they would track those folks. And without question, the reason some were successful and some weren't is because they had the power, true grit, the power and passion to not give up. You know, if you take a look at somebody like Michael Jordan, right? When he's supposed to be the best basketball player of all time, I still think he is for lots of reasons, not just because of his points, but because he was somebody that was a gentleman on and off the court. Big deal, huh? And because he was somebody who encouraged young people to succeed and not rely on the government. A quote from Michael Jordan is this: if you have the ability to come to me and ask for money, then you also have the ability to say, welcome to McDonald's, may I take your order? So go get a job. Well, if you don't understand, I don't want to understand, thank you. That's not my goal. My goal is to not I never want to think that that's a normal, that being a bum, a lazy person, I don't care, you fill in the blanks. Bad words, good words, it's not my world to control your language. There are people that succeed. Here's the challenge. There are many of you out there that have people that are counting on you. Your children, your spouse. your parents, your grandmother. And because you're stuck in this little self-pity world, pay attention to what it takes to succeed. True grit. Parents, I'm not sure what to do to teach your kids to have the ability to fight back and to never give up and to get up off the ground. But Michael Jordan did this. When he was in the clutch, right? 3 seconds left, they're down by 1 point. Who do they give the ball to? Everybody knew on his team and on the other team, the ball was going to Michael Jordan. You know that? Everybody knew. People at home, commentators, well, we're not sure who it's going to be. Everybody knew. The ball gets thrown in, it goes to Michael Jordan. He sinks it. But not every time. The reason he was so successful was because he failed in the clutch when everything was on the line. He failed more than he succeeded. Did you know that? Did you know Babe Ruth struck out more than anybody else in the league? But he also had more home runs because he didn't give up. He kept working, and they recovered from failures quicker. That's the secret. It's not that you fail. Everybody does. It's how quickly you recover from that failure. It's how quickly you get back on your feet. You see, the longer you sit in a time of oh, I feel sorry for myself, oh, financially I got laid off, or, I lost money. I get it. I've been scammed. I hate it. But how quickly do you get back on your feet? That's what it's all about. Teach your children that, and I think they have a better shot at moving out. And the failure to launch, right? You can have a kid who's the brightest one in the world, but if they don't have the grit to fight, and I don't mean physically, right, but to fight back, to succeed, to fail and to try again, to do their best instead of trying, then I think you're going to be stuck in a position where financially your retirement, whether you retire at the top of the market or the bottom, it's going to be that, oh, by the way, you better keep supporting your kids forever. And it doesn't help when the government healthcare system says that kids are on your health insurance till age 26. Do you know why they did that? Do you know why the Obama administration did that? I'm going to shock you for a minute. It's because they wanted votes. And they know that the folks that vote under the age of 26, if they think they're getting something for free because they're staying on mom and dad's health insurance, well, they'll probably vote for Democrats again. There's no, why 26? Why not 28? Why not 21? What's the, well, Arif, college. Go to college and tell them you don't want to pay for that health insurance that they make you pay for. Right? Everybody has to pay that health insurance fee. So if a kid is in college, he's in college. He gets health insurance anyway, and you have to pay for it. So it's a bunch of hogwash. But when you go around and tell young people that, oh, by the way, you're still a child at 26 years old, don't be surprised if they still act like a child at 26 years old. We're going to take a break, folks. Give me a call if you have any questions. 888-99-RETIRE, 888-997-3847. Pretty serious subject today, but I think you should follow along because you have a good chance of changing your family's finances forever. It's a pretty good opportunity, at least in the best way, when we come back. Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby. Thanks for being with me. We'll be right back.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top quality musicals and plays. Located on Main Street in Old Town Newhall, CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go online to canyontheater.org.
If you're in danger of losing your home to foreclosure, you need an expert. Hi, I'm Rich Sherman with Alta Realty. I've helped hundreds of Santa Clarita residents save their homes completely for free. I've got just over 20 years experience and a loan modification success rate of over 80%. I can negotiate better terms with your bank and I can save your home from foreclosure. And again, we do this completely for free. So if you're in any danger, please call me today at 661-714-1400. That number again is 661-714-1400. I'm Rich Sherman with Alta Realty, and I'll be happy to help you save your home for free.
Your hometown station.
KHTS is your official Santa Clarita Dodger station. You can catch all evening games right here on your hometown station. For all the latest news and updates on your Los Angeles Dodgers, KHTS has you covered. Go to hometownstation.com.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Join City of Hope today in the fight against cancer. Make a difference by participating in City of Hope's Together for Hope, presented by Antelope Valley Hospital and High Desert Medical Group on Saturday, September 15th. Be a part of this inaugural event in partnership with City of Hope Antelope Valley and show your support toward groundbreaking research to treat and cure cancer. They welcome everyone to their 2K walk, 5K run in honor of the individuals in our lives affected by cancer. City of Hope, the miracle of science with soul. Join the movement today by registering at togetherforhope.org.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association has a new gallery in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Main and Railroad, right across from the Canyon Theater Guild. The gallery features our members' paintings, sculptures, and one-of-a-kind handcrafted gift items. Whether you're an art lover, buyer, or an artist wishing to join, visit our website at santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming events and exhibits, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
Hey there, I'm Tori with your hometown station weather. Mostly sunny this week with highs in the low to mid 90s, overnight lows in the upper 60s. Save the date for the SCV Chamber Latino Business Alliance Gala, Saturday, September 8th at 6 p.m. at the Newhall Family Theater for the Performing Arts. For more information, go to scvchamber.com. And for all things Santa Clarita Valley related, go to hometownstation.com.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
Financial security will help you live the life you dream. Learn about financial power, the total financial hour. Now higher income strategy. Learn from Arif Halaby.
Hi, folks. That's me, Arif Halaby. Thanks for staying with us. The Total Financial Hour on AM 1220 and FM 98.1 KHTS. This is your hometown station. Okay, we're going to continue now this hour of the program. What do you do with your old 401k or retirement account when you leave your job or when you retire? Because both rules can kind of apply. There's going to be a couple of differences as we get through this, but you're now going to be faced with a question. Usually, the company that you work for will send you a package. You get a whole package, a separation package. Here's what you do with your retirement account. You have these options. Here's what you do with your health insurance. We're going to pay you out on your leftover vacation days, etc. So there's usually a package of stuff, and you have to kind of sift through that. You can always bring it into us or any financial professional. We generally know how to work with the paperwork on the retirement account side of things. Here's some of the choices, but things that you have to consider if you're going to retire or leave your job before you make a decision of what to do with your retirement account. Okay, because most Americans are reaching the retirement age and they have some money in a retirement account. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a little. Number one, first consider your needs. Do you need to have access to these funds in the next year or two? Do you have enough money for emergencies outside of this? So do you have money in your checking or your savings accounts, maybe other retirement accounts or other type of investment accounts? But emergency money, that's very important. You'll always hear me talk about that as the first thing. Now, how much is enough for emergencies? Some folks say, I have $5,000, that's plenty. Well, it just depends on how much you need each and every month. So take away whatever expenses you have that are related to work. So in other words, you're laid off of work, you're at home. You're not going to have commute. You may not have dry cleaning expenses, right? So food, shelter, clothing, insurance, the basic necessities that it takes to live, I like to see 6 months of those. So your rent or your house payment, I'd like to see 6 months of at least. A year would be better. That makes me happier. So if your expenses are $5,000 for 6 months, rare, but it could be, then $5,000 is a good number. But I'd really like to see $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 available somewhere. It can be in an old retirement account, depending on your age, right? So that's just for emergency designation. $80,000 is great. $100,000 is amazing, right? So I know you're saying, but Arif, we get paid nothing in the savings account at the bank. I know. The purpose for that money is not to earn great rates of return. In fact, it's not even to earn really any rates of return. The purpose of that money is simple. It's to be available at the drop of a hat through a Visa, debit card or MasterCard. It's to be available with a phone call, with writing a check. In other words, it's available today, right now, this minute. Okay, if it is, then you have the option to say, that is my emergency money. If I need to pay my bills right now, it's available. Okay? Do you have large expenses coming up? So maybe you have great for emergency, but you say, I'm going to buy an RV. I'm retired, I'm going to buy an RV. Or I change jobs and I'm going to have to pay to relocate to a different state or a different town. Those expenses, it's not my first choice, but sometimes you have to use retirement money for that. Because remember, retirement money, when you use it for that type of thing, means that it's taxed. And when it's taxed, when you pull, at least subject to tax, depending on your bracket, you need to check with your CPA and say, okay, I need $15,000 to move. How much do I have to take from my retirement account so I don't end up with a big tax bill in April? And your tax preparer, your CPA, should give you a number. Oh, you need to pull out this much more money. These are important things because you're going to be looking at 2 or 3 problems here, which is I'm taking from the future, that's your retirement account, and I'm going to be paying taxes on it. So you either have to work a little longer or save more money between now and then to get it back up, right? So, but I'd prefer you have money today, not just, oh, in 40 years I'm going to be wealthy, but right now I can't eat dinner. No, that doesn't work. All right, so consider that as an option. Number 2, how old are you? Because the younger you are, the more likely you're going to need to have income. So if you're retiring at 55 years old or 58 or 60, chances are pretty good that you're going to need money for 30 or 40 years. Now, I know that might blow you away for a minute, but that means that you're going to be needing money from this account long after you are done working, and of course, much longer than when you were actually working. Maybe you worked 30 years in your career, you got a great pension. Chances are you're probably going to live longer than that, especially a lot of the law enforcement or firefighters, right? You can retire at 50 or 55 years old, and you worked maybe 25 years. Well, if you did, maybe you have a wonderful pension, especially if you live in another state. You can live very comfortably. Except you understand that when you do that, you're going to be alive. So unless you're going to work and do something else, these funds have to be there as a machine to kick out interest and money to live a very long time. So consider that, because timing is everything. If you're going to retire at the top of the market, then please secure some of these funds. Don't just let them sit there. If you're going to leave a job and your account is at all-time high, then think about putting some off to the side. Put it and preserve it. Right? I don't want you losing everything just because something happens in China, or something is going on in Turkey or Europe, or the Trump tariff tax bill, or whatever it might be. All of a sudden the market changes one direction or the other. Right? I've given you predictions all day long that I think there's something big coming down the road, but how do we protect it? So that's what we do, and certainly other firms do as well, but we are a specialist in protecting. My job is not to make you rich. My job is to protect what you have earned, to earn reasonable rates of return going forward, and keep you from being broke. That's a big deal. I don't want you to be somebody who has to go back to work at 83 years old. What kind of job are you going to have? You've been out of the market for 20 years. You have a bad hip. You have heart issues, right? We're not the same person physically in our 80s as we were in our 50s. So we need to have a plan A, B, and C so that you don't have to go back to work if you don't want to, at least not for money. Okay, here's something else to consider. Should you roll over your account, or should you keep it at your employer? There's a couple of different reasons, or even roll it over into your new 401k plan. Let me give you the pros and cons. Think of it like this. Are you going to need the money? If you think you're going to need the money, either as a withdrawal or better yet, as a loan, because in a 401k plan, if you have a new job, your 401k plan should allow you to withdraw 50% or $50,000, whatever's higher. So here's a good example. If you have $30,000 in your 401k plan, you're allowed to take out 15. If you have $100,000, you're allowed to remove 50 in the form of a loan. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be hardship, but you just say, I want the money, and buy a house, take a vacation, whatever. You got to pay it back. But if you have $200,000, you can still only borrow $50,000. So the change doesn't matter. $50,000 is the maximum. So in other words, it's half of what you have in the account up to $50,000, which means if your old retirement account is $300,000 and you think you may need or want to borrow money from that, then you can take 100 of it, put it in your new 401k. Now you have the ability to borrow the maximum, nothing changes. Then take the other 200 and make it safe. So you've protected some of it. You've taken the others and get the best benefit out of rolling it over. Maybe you're going to add money to it as you go, right, as you're working. But at least you know right now you have a backup plan. If all heck breaks loose, I can get $50,000 right away borrowing it from my current retirement plan. So that means that sometimes your 401k or your old work plan might go into two different directions. It also might mean that you are somebody who is going to be in a position to where when you retire, you're going to have income from multiple sources. That's exactly what I want. Don't think that if you can't look, I had we were at an event not too long ago, and a gentleman worked for Caltrans, pretty big, right? An engineer, made lots and lots of money. I don't know if you know, but some of the folks at Caltrans make $180,000, $200,000+ a year. There's lots and lots of them. Lots of them. So don't think that, these poor state workers like it used to be. See, it used to be you work for the government just to get a job. They won't fire you unless you punch your boss. But, they won't fire you. Listen, you're not going to be rich. They have benefits. You can retire early, but you're just not going to make very much money. That's the way it used to be. But today, government jobs pay is more than the private sector, by the way. And you get all the benefits, and you get all the pension. And so the challenge that we see, in fact, I'm going to call it a problem, is that the purpose for people going into government work before was because of job security, right? Remember you used to get laid off in the 80s every 15 minutes from aerospace, right? A lot of those folks said, I can't do this anymore. Every 4 months a project would end. Northrop, Boeing, Lockheed, they would lay people off, then they'd come back. That's the way it was all throughout the 80s and 90s. Then there was some stability to it. But a lot of folks said, I'm just going to go work for the government. Why did that change? I don't know. Suddenly you now have a position of people who are making $180,000, $150,000, $200,000 a year. That's great. I mean, happy for them, right? Their clients, their friends, their family. But the rest of us as taxpayers have to pay that pension forever. Because here's what he says. I said, oh, by the way, are you saving money in your 457? Because that's what it's called, deferred compensation, or 457, if you work for a city, county, state agency. I said, are you putting money in your 457? I hope so. Whatever, we're talking. He says, no, 100% of I made sure that my house is paid off. I made sure my kids went to college. All good things. Nothing wrong with that. But what he did is he saved nothing for his own retirement. And he's counting 100% of his lifestyle to be from a state of California pension. Now, you've heard me say this before, and I'll tell you again, so it's in 1,000 different places. There's a 100% chance they're going to have to change the pension system. In other words, there is no way that the California state, city, county pension system, the only one that might be okay, and it's still not 100%, but it might be okay, is the LA City Department of Water and Power that I know. The rest of the California pensions, LAPD, LA Fire, they are 85% funded. You know what that means? They're like, oh, we're 85%. Well, 85 is a big number. I'll take it. That means there's 15% that's not there. And every year that passes, there's less than that is there. Get 2 or 3 bad years of the market, and there's even less that is there, which means, you guys, that there will not be money, so they have to do one of 2 things or one of 3 things. They will have to raise taxes on everybody else who lives in the city. Now, you ask them, oh, by the way, you work for a job without a pension. You're going to have to pay more taxes so a person can retire at 50 years old or 55. Listen, I can tell you Firefighters and police officers do work that none of us want to do. But at the end, folks are still going to think about it as money. And you're going to say, oh, by the way, you're going to have to work harder. So a guy can retire at 55 years old and travel the world on an $8,000 a month pension. Is that okay with you? Maybe. They're going to raise taxes on those folks. They're going to raise taxes in the state. Now, I think the only thing that doesn't leave the state of California is property, real estate. Your job can leave, so they may not add a payroll tax. Your income can leave, so you can be a resident of another state, even though you might have a vacation home here. But when you pull money from your pension or your retirement accounts, you pay it under the tax bracket of Nevada or Texas or Oregon, wherever you might live. So your income, your job, what else is left? Sales tax, we're already near 10%. Right, virtually, we're virtually, what are they going to tax tobacco? Again, 400% instead. Alcohol? Right, it didn't stop people from smoking, so I don't know what the story was. It was just another one. Oh, I know, it's the lottery, right, that scam. When the lottery suddenly became, right, do you know what they did? It's for the children. Schools. Show a child in the inner city with a broken desk, with a pencil that's 1 inch tall, and little Johnny's trying to write. Approve the lottery. Okay. Johnny can finally have a new book. Susie can have, a desk. And then you approve it, and the son of a guns in the state of California took the money that was exactly, we made $1 million this month from the lotto. Guess how much they removed from the budget for the schools? $1 million. Instead of saying we now have an extra $1 million to spend to finally get Johnny and Susie the tools and equipment they need to be a good student, the state of California spent the money in other places. What do you think they're doing with everything? Sales tax, car registration, car tax, car license fees, right? They have a car registration and car license. You might think they're the same thing. They are not. Surprise. And then they show you this little pie chart. Here's where your dollars go. CHP, roads. Well, then why are you taxing me again for roads? So I think those people are going to say enough is enough. So guess what I think they're going to tax? In order to keep the pension system alive, I think there is a 100% chance it's going to change. Absolutely. They'll reduce benefits, and I think they're going to tax your real estate. Now, before all of you Prop 13 people smile and go, it's not me, though, it's them. They're not going to raise your property taxes. They're going to charge you a property fee. Just like they did with Obamacare. They didn't call it a tax, they called it a fee. It was really a tax. Just like they did with car registration in the state of California. Car registration was a certain number, they just put something on called a licensing fee. So they're going to have a property licensing fee, something. And if you think that the politicians in Sacramento, which are all one political party, you can do the math, if you think they are honestly going to take the money and fix the system, then vote for them again. I don't think they're going to do it. They just never have. So they just never have. So if you think things are going to change, then you got to pass a law to pass a law. The problem is Kevin De Leon and Governor Brown, they don't pay attention to what you say. They use the courts as a weapon to overthrow whatever the voters vote for. Now, Arif, this isn't a political show. Yeah, I know, but it's still a money show. And these crazy ideas that these folks come up with in Sacramento affects whether or not you can retire, either now or in the state. If you think it's just me, just ask 5 people that have retired. And I'll bet most of them will tell you they either have considered or are considering or are not even really residents of California anymore. And if they still are, ask them, you think it's, is it pretty reasonable, about the same to live here as it is other places? And they will tell you the taxes and the expenses and the cost of living. So if you are going to leave the state of California, then you just take your retirement account with you. But being flexible is really the key, because maybe you want to halfway through. Maybe you're going to retire in California, and then after a bit you say, you know what, we keep going on these cruises with my friends, and they're saying how much of a wonderful lifestyle they have. You know, there's expatriate, right? Expat communities, which are people that have relocated from a lot of places, Canada, Australia, Great Britain, and the United States. Those are the 4 main countries that have created communities within communities, both in Mexico, in Costa Rica, other places as well. I've just seen it very heavy in those 2 areas, where there are complete towns where folks speak English all throughout the town. In fact, a friend of mine actually lives in one of those towns, and he says, Arif, the service personnel, the food servers and waiters and personnel at hotels and stuff, they speak English better than the people here. And I said, what are you talking about? He says, yeah, because all of them are very well educated. They know that the American dollar goes farther, and we tip in dollars. And so what they do is they might get a degree in English or engineering or whatever, but they can't find a great job there, so they work in the hospitality tourist industry, and they earn pretty darn good wages. So they're very educated, and they're very, very well informed. They speak English. And I said, well, what does it cost to live there? He said, I'll give you an example. A good friend of mine, this is him saying, a good friend of his, husband and wife both had Social Security. Hers was $1,500 a month. His was about $2,700 a month. Okay? So $1,527, maybe around $4,000 by the time it's all said and done. So what do? He said they live like a king. They have a housekeeper come in multiple times a week. They don't have to work. All of their utilities are like less than $50 a month. Surprise. Their property taxes, he said, less than $100 a month. And he made a joke. He said something pretty funny. He's like, hey, remember I told you how a Corona was $1? You know, a beer, right? I said, oh, yeah. He said, they just raised the price. I go, oh, that's bad for you. What did they raise? He said they raised a bottle of Corona to $1.25. I'm like, really? So even a fairly, right here, what are they, $4, $5, $6 when you go to a bar? Over there, it's $1.25. The point is, there are folks that had no desire to leave the state or even the country, and yet they do. So broaden your horizons. If you have a child who lives in Seattle and your son's got a job in Denver and your daughter is working in New York, what's the difference if you're in one of these expat communities or if you're in LA or Texas as far as travel or seeing them? You're still going to have to fly on a plane. Maybe it's an extra hour or 2 or 3. Because I want you to enjoy life. I don't want you to be somebody who's 68 years old with $1 million and yet you don't see your family. Or who's 65 years old and you've finally saved $5 million and your life is great and you don't have a family. All right? So that's very important. When we come back, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks. How much is too much when you're saving for retirement? When is that finish line? When are you done running? When we come back. Your place for news, talk, and information. This is your hometown station, KHTS, and I'm Arif Halaby. Give me a call at 888-99-RETIRE, 888-99-RETIRE, 997-3847. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Miles McNamara, Certified Senior Advisor and owner of Comfort Keepers and Home Care. Our caregivers help you in your own home. A Comfort Keeper can provide companionship, meal preparation, medication monitoring, assistance with personal care, transportation to doctor appointments, all enhancing your independence and safety in the comfort and privacy of your own home. So if you or someone you love could use a helping hand at home, call Comfort Keepers at 287-4200. That's 287-4200.
There's only one Santa Clarita plastic surgeon who is Yale trained and board certified, Dr. Justin Heller.
To be a board certified plastic surgeon like myself, what that truly entails is about 5 to 7 years of honed surgical training in reconstructive, all areas, as well as aesthetic, so which means your facelifts, your breast augmentations, your body contouring, true training, and board certification. In fact, that's the only board certified area that can be achieved in this realm.
Dr. Justin Heller, warm, understanding, always available for guidance because he's local. HellerPlasticSurgery.com.
Marston's Restaurant has been a Pasadena landmark, voted the best breakfast in California by the Food Network magazine. Discover Marston's Santa Clarita location, open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Marston's also has a fantastic catering menu that adds a delicious twist to any event. And they cater picnic dinners for that memorable romantic date. Experience Marston's on Newhall Ranch Road and McBean, or log on to marstonsrestaurant.com.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
Financial security will help you live the life you dream. Learn about financial power.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm Arif Halaby. Thanks for staying with me on your place for news, talk, and information, your hometown station, KHTS. The Total Financial Hour is every week at this time. You can always go, give us a call if you'd like at 888. That's 888-997-3847. That's 888-99-RETIRE. You can also go to TFS Wealth. Stands for Total Financial Solutions, so TFSwealth.com. And that'll give you our website, and certainly you can see what we're all about if you have any questions. Listen, my job is to help you keep some or part of your money safe. The important part is to realize this. Sometimes you've reached a level of savings, or you've reached a level of money that you say, I just can't afford to lose this anymore. Either because there's more money in the account than you had ever had in your life, and or you're at an age where you don't want to go back to work to try to get it back. So that's important. When you're young, your food, shelter, clothing comes from your job. Your expenses, your lifestyle, it's all a matter of your career that you've chosen. Right? That's important. Because when you're older, your food, shelter, and clothing comes from your savings, your retirement accounts, your pension, your 401k plan. So there's a balance there when you say, I need to start making sure that my income doesn't go up and down every month or every year. So how you do that is making sure that some of it is safe. So when saving for retirement, the obvious answer for most people is the more is better. But it's not always the same. It's not always correct. Because the actual dollar amount or percentage that each person saves for their future, it's really dependent on a couple of things. In order to keep it simple, I'm going to give you just three kind of main areas to focus on. First, when do you want to retire? That's important. When do you want to retire? Because if you're going to retire sooner rather than later, you need to ask yourself, will I start needing to tap into this money within the next year or two? If you do, then you have to ask yourself, am I willing to pay a fee or a fine to get it? Because if not, then you probably should just put it in a savings account. Because the most important thing you can say to with these dollars is, at age 70 and a half, you're going to have to start taking money out. That doesn't change. But if you didn't need it, then just leave it. Let it grow until age 70 and a half. Then you have to start taking some out. Simple as this. Remember something called the rule of 72. That's how quickly your money doubles. So when you're trying to save and you're trying to build up money for your retirement, you need to say, I need the money to grow. That's nice. But more importantly, second, what kind of interest rate am I earning? Because if I'm withdrawing, let's say 4.5%, 5%, that's how much you withdraw. Do you realize what Wall Street has done? This is pretty crafty. It happened very sly, very sneakily, and I don't think most people paid attention. It used to be years ago that you could withdraw 5% and never run out. That was the number. When you retire in your 60s, take out 5%, you never run out of money because you're going to earn interest. They expect you to pass away before, right? So it's kind of a plus-minus game. Then they lowered it to 4.5%. Oh, it's 4.5%. And then the 2008, 2009 crisis comes, and now everybody says 4%. So you might say, well, that's conservative. That's a safe way to do it. But do you understand why? Because they've increased their fees. So the withdrawal for those funds isn't just what you take out to spend. It's what they take out in fees. Because if you do the math, if they take out today, it used to be 1%. See, back when it was 5%, they were withdrawing 1% in fees, or less even, much less. Today, it's about 1.5%. So when you add the 1.5 to the 4 they tell you to take out, why are they getting about as much money as you are? If you don't like it, if you think that's a little bit of a problem, Total Financial Solutions is here to help. We don't charge fees on your money. The companies pay us. That's the way it goes. We're here to help. Total Financial Solutions, every week at this time on your place for News Talk Information, KHTS.
KHTS, AM 1220.